Welcome to Talking Ship, the Venture Asheville podcast where we talk about issues and topics in entrepreneurship. If you were looking for a podcast about the ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal earlier this year, you are in the wrong place. But feel free to stick around because we'll be floating down a different canal today that's all about startup growth and corporate venture capital. Not as memeable, but...
That was so good. That was such a better intro than I've ever done. I have to interrupt to say that was phenomenal. That was so good.
And who are we? We are the High Growth Entrepreneurship Initiative of the Asheville Buncombe Economic Development Coalition. That is a...
Yeah. Doing great.
We build entrepreneurs and we get startups funded. I am Juliana Walker, this ship's first mate and lover of Freaky Friday. You seen that? The old one or the new one?
I think I have.
Yeah.
I think I have. Yeah, I have. I know what Freaky Friday is.
Yeah.
Where two people touch a thing
and then they
body swap.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we're doing today. With me today is the wonderful, thoughtful, kind, and considerate, and talented master of entrepreneurship, Jeffrey Kaplan, the director of Venture Asheville, and the usual captain of this ship. Jeff, what's good?
I'm glad you brought up Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everything's upside down today. I'm having a real backwards day. We published our newsletter this morning, and there was not one joke. There was not one pun. Usually I do like sneaky GIFs, and I hyperlink GIFs to words or phrases. Not one.
Wow.
I wrote a long form, serious newsletter. One of our investors wrote me and said, Jeff, it took me half an hour to get through this newsletter. Normally like a 5-minute read, if that.
People are going to be worried about you. You're going to be getting a lot of messages. What's wrong? You made no jokes.
I think people are going to be worried. It's just a very serious newsletter. There's a lot of important stuff we wanted to get out. And then I'm not even hosting my own podcast. And it's like in Ghostbusters, next thing you know, you'll have cats living with dogs.
It's going to get crazy in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like a pretty odd day, but we're going to make the most of it because here at Venture Asheville, we are always able to pivot quickly, which is why you are getting this mini episode of just us. And Jeff, recently, you wrote an article on Medium all about corporation roles in startup ecosystems. So we're going to talk about that. And in that article, you write about a number of ways that corporations can help fast track startups and support the ecosystems, whether that's through contracts, CVC, or even just mentorship. So I guess first off, what led you to write this article?
Corporate entrepreneurship is something we've been talking about internally, semi-related, tangentially related to the topic of this blog post. So corporate entrepreneurship is being an entrepreneur, and just it's a course we're rolling out in February 2022, and it's in line with the role corporations play in the startup ecosystem. There's this misnomer or this myth that corporations and startups are antithetical to one another, that they have different ways of doing things, which is partially true, and different kinds of people work at those, and that's also partially true. But they're both part of the greater business ecosystem and kind of the economy of where we live. And the corporations can play a really important, influential role in developing young companies that we don't see a lot of here. And recently, one such example happened to a local company of ours in Elevate, which was the impetus for writing this blog post. It's something I wanted to do for a long time. I was looking for that anchor, that hook to push us over the edge and have enough momentum to do some hero making, to make an example of the corporation and startup we'll talk about, and use that as hopefully like a beacon or like a lighthouse that other corporations in our community look at that and go, maybe we can develop our future collaborators, or maybe there's vendors or services under our nose we should be working with. Maybe instead of shopping this thing out to a company in Atlanta or Charlotte or New York, we have a company here who can help us solve that problem. And yeah, we'll talk about some more of those options, but it's different kinds of capital and different kinds of resources in a community whether it's us, we're an entrepreneur support organization, or your local CDFI for capital, or your networking group to find people to work with and co-founders. Corporations, they play a really important role, and this is our chance to put it all out there. And I think we identified 5 or 6 ways that corporations can be involved in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. So you kind of teased it there about this specific startup that led you to write this article about corporate roles in startup ecosystems. So can you just tell me about that example?
Okay, so Earth Fare, a locally headquartered grocery chain, which started, I think, in 71 here in Asheville, 1971. They grew. They were a startup, right? They grew. They got acquired by private equity. They expanded to, I think, like 60 locations. And then I think 2 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic, went bankrupt. And the original founders, with a few new investors, actually bought back Earth Fare. And the original plan, I talked to one of the investors, remember, it was like March or April 2020. He said, yeah, I think we're going to do like 5 or 6 stores. Like, bring it back, keep it local, just the way it used to be when it started, and it was really good. And then 2 years later now, they're almost 2 years later, they've got like 27, 28 stores. Like, they've really done an incredible job, and they've been so welcomed back. The ethos of Earth Fare's origin to their growth today, it's all back. They've got all that trust back in the community, and it's clearly paying off well. That's a long way to say who Earth Fare is. It's a, I don't want to say organic only, but it's like natural focused, local version of Whole Foods. Some say the best rotisserie chicken in town. I would say that. I would say it's the best rotisserie chicken in town. And I'm a huge Publix guy. Huge. It's a Floridian. But I think Earth Fare has the edge. Anyway, simultaneously, while that's going on, we have a local company we're incubating through our mentorship program called Cardstock, STALK, like a tree stock, not like stock, paper stock, STOCK. So Cardstock is developed by Brandon and Stephanie Prime, married couple, total tech people. They worked at Amazon, Google, they're developers. They love this area. They like the art scene. They created a kiosk, like picture going to an iPad connected to a printer, and you can select a greeting card right there, designed and created by a local artist, and it prints on demand. So you want something funny, something dirty, something sweet, something unique. So when you go to the card aisle and it's someone's 23rd birthday, you're not going to find a card for them. There's a 21st birthday, there's a 30th birthday, there's a first, second, third birthday, but things like that. Like, why is that so hard to get a 23rd birthday card? Or, gosh, I don't know, something that falls in the cracks of what's in the limited card aisle. So they want to leverage technology to give the consumer way more choices. At the same time, they can do that because it's software based, and they don't need to take up aisles in a grocery store. Right? So Earth Fare can have more higher margin food products while still giving a gift card option. And the third piece of this is because it's local artists who get, I think it's like $3 per card, they're getting way more revenue than they would ever get, on a licensing referral fee with Hallmark, dare I say Hallmark. So maybe I put it all together without explaining the connection. Earth Fare is piloting Cardstock's first kiosk this week. And it's an amazing example of a corporation extending the hand out to a local startup and giving them a huge boost up.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. And it's providing that credibility, which you note in your article.
Right. So as an early startup, it's so hard to get your next customers. Like, early adopter is going to be from your inner circle. And what it means for Cardstock to then go to Publix or go to Walgreens or go to any other place where you buy a card and say, Earth Fare is piloting us, right? That gives them a huge dose of credibility.
Yeah, and you note that this is a corporate win-win-win. Can you explain that?
I was looking for the Michael Scott GIF where he's trying to do some resolution between Angela and Oscar about how Angela can display her poster of babies playing saxophones, if you know this classic episode of The Office. And Michael ends that with win, win, win. And he seems very impressed with himself. Um, that's a long way of saying a corporate win-win-win. That's a total non sequitur. It's a win for the corporation. Corporation gets more choice for the consumer. They get to save square footage, and they can, get higher revenue per square foot using this kiosk than a aisles of cards. So better for the organization's bottom line. It's a win for cardstock because they get their first client, they get their first location. Any location would be a win. Every time they get a new account or new space, it's a win. And the third win is a community win, which I believe is aligned with Earth Fair's ethos as well, where this is an arts town and artists are always struggling. So Earth Fair and Cardstock together create this channel for artists who otherwise wouldn't be able to sell their art in Earth Fair for a variety of reasons or anywhere, right, other than their galleries. This creates a local yet digital channel for artists. So it's a win for them as well.
I think that's wonderful. And it's great to see that support in all sectors of our community. It's a win-win-win.
Well said, Juliana. Well said.
Where did I get that from? So that's just one example of how corporations can support startup ecosystems is here's a place to put your product and we're going to help you grow. But what are some of the other ways, and do you have any examples of how corporations can support these startups?
Yeah, so the article we discuss a number of anecdotes or vignettes of a corporation working with a startup in a variety of ways. So being a pilot partner is this example with Earth Fair and Cardstock. Another one is to just be a vendor, right? Be a contractor or contract out to your local company, your local startup. An example is when I worked at Antherware, I could get hired at Antherware in 2017 when I started, because John Jones, the CEO, had just closed this very long-term, high-value contract. He and I went back and forth on how to explain it in the article because John and I have become really good friends, and he's mentioned in probably half of our episodes. He was supposed to be on an episode today. For a variety of reasons, we ended up scheduling this one. By having a long-term, high-value contract like that in a services startup where they create software and product development, John knew he would be able to have enough work for 4 to 5 FTEs, full-time equivalencies or employees, right? If it's hourly-based company, for at least a year. So it meant he could go out and hired me as a product owner. He hired a developer, and he hired a product designer, UX, UI person. Again, because it wasn't like Antherware, for example, really likes working with other startups, like funded startups. They're not doing product development. Antherware is a great partner. It's a bit more rare for a corporation to do that. But when a corporation comes through, you have so much more security and stability with a large corporation than a startup that might be flighty, or all the negative things that we hear about startups where they go bust and they can't finish, and you're left with like code and no product, whatever it is. So one way is a corporate contract with a startup is a tangible way to create net new jobs locally, as opposed to, again, finding a vendor in you name it, any generic city in the country.
You mentioned in here corporate venture capital and how it now comprises 25% of all angel deals, and you say CVC is the new R&D. So why are you led there? What is your thinking to get to that?
It is. Next question.
It just is.
It just is. Accept it. Come on, accept it. I thought that would be the most quotable thing in my Medium post. I just hope in Medium you can highlight and share, and automatically becomes a tweet. And that line, maybe because it's a long article and it's at the end, that's not getting any traction. It's just sitting there. So folks, if you listen to this podcast, go to Medium, search corporations roles in startup ecosystems. Scroll to the bottom. It's in italics. It's the last sentence of the fourth to last paragraph. I think you give that a share, tweet it, LinkedIn it, whatevs. That I might put that in my LinkedIn bio. CVC is a new R&D, hashtag JCap. What was your question?
Why is CVC the new R&D? I mean, we'll put the link to this article, and we'll just
Okay.
put that as the
CVC is a new
maybe that's
R&D.
the title of this episode.
Okay, so first let me say that in addition to being a contractor or being a pilot, very briefly, let me say that corporations have tons of expertise they can share with startups through mentorship. So we have Illuminati guitars. These guys make these aluminum milled guitar necks that are super cool on these lucite bodies. And before James Little, the founder, was going to his first trade show, we reached out to Moog Music, which makes synthesizers. Bob Moog, the founder, is a Moogseum in town. I mean, they make the coolest, best instruments in the world for I think he invented the synthesizer. Downtown Factory. It's just, so you can take a tour. It's so cool. We reached out to Moog Music and said, hey, we've got this new company. Here's what they do. Here's what they're up against, right? It's a new entrant into a legacy market. Like, do you have anybody who'd be interested in helping out? And within like minutes, we got this guy, Paul, who was able to help James prepare for the trade show and then set up his retail shop, because Paul managed the retail shop at Moog Music, right? It's not competitive, right? Moog makes synthesizers, and James is making this very high-end boutique aluminum electric guitar, right? They couldn't be more different. They'll probably never be in the same band, or you won't see someone playing a synth in one of these guitars. But he had the experience to help James. And it's also part of the culture of Asheville. So that's a great example. And that's a way through expertise. Now, CVC, Corporate Venture Capital, my introduction to this world was as an advisor to the HCA Mission Innovation Fund, which is a $25 million fund that was the predecessor to the $50 million Pisgah Fund, which we have now, which is a health tech venture fund. So at that time, I just knew corporate venture capital as corporations diversifying their portfolio through investing in small businesses where they can use them at a discount or use them to be the pilot partner. So example would be, all right, so let's keep going with HCA. So their first investment was in a PPE factory, right? They brought with the joint venture a PPE factory to Asheville, which created like 18 or 25 jobs, which is awesome, right? And given how much PPE hospitals have been, and any clinic has been investing in the last 18 months, they saw millions of dollars going into this, and they thought, well, why don't we just make our own PPE? And then they can also sell that PPE to other hospitals, right? Great. Sounds awesome. Lowers their bottom line. Another way is, what if they were investing in, let's go with telehealth, right? So telehealth companies got really popular in the pandemic, and they know they're going to grow, and there's going to be exits. So they could put an investment from their profit margins, instead of bonusing it out, a golden parachute kind of thing. You can invest that into small companies and fast track new technologies that you can use for your venture. That's corporate venture capital in a nutshell. It's running your own angel or venture group off the balance sheet of your business in hopes, that you have some big return, or it creates a way for you to acquire that company in the future, or it gives you an in on new technology you can be piloting. So that's why we say CVC is the new R&D. So R&D is research and development, which is historically very expensive, very time consuming, and full of failure, right? So in your R&D department, you'd expect to have a majority of failures. Sometimes an internal project comes through and it's validated, and then you can use it in your company. So imagine if you could take a fraction of that cost and a fraction of that time and have somebody else do that hard work. So if you need a telehealth technology, right, you could try to build your own, or partner or buy someone else's, right, across all the competitors that are out there. That's corporate venture. That's why we're saying CVC is a new R&D. And I learned recently, I think at an Angel Capital Association meeting, that as of 2020, 25% of all angel deals are including corporate venture capital, which is so cool. That typically venture capital is going to be later stage ventures, but to see corporate venture capital being so, a quarter of angel deals, it means that corporations are looking earlier and earlier, right? Higher up in the funnel, there's more options, more opportunities for them. And so again, as a startup, right, to say that, yeah, HCA is one of our investors, or LabCorp out in Raleigh, right, national huge testing, medical testing company. They have a very thriving corporate venture capital arm. So if you're in that space and you can say, yeah, LabCorp is one of our investors, that makes, again, so it's even more than the credibility you have as someone being a customer, because you can always turn that contract off. When you're an investor, that's your ride or die. You're with that team through the life cycle of the business.
Amazing.
Indeed.
Indeed. So CVC really is the new R&D, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, why kill yourself and potentially like skunk the company to develop something that someone else already figured out?
Mhm.
Partner with them, collaborate versus compete. That's kind of the root of it.
Exactly. Now, I want to touch on one more way that corporations can add to this ecosystem, and that is a little bit of a plug for our Venture 15 happening this December. And you talk about
Sorry, is that the international award winning and the gold ranking
I think it
Venture
might
15? Is that
be.
what you're talking about?
It could be.
Recognized by the IEDC in
Mhm.
2021?
Yeah, it's
That one?
absolutely, like, no big deal. Like, we're just gonna sweep that under the rug.
Okay.
Who cares? I mean, award winning? But you mentioned that the accounting firm Johnson Price Sprinkle PA, JPS.
AKA
Um,
JPS. Yep.
yeah, I always mess it up, so I had to be very careful with my
Hey, they're a very
Johnson
important sponsor, so stop messing it up.
Johnson Price Sprinkle. They receive all of the documents for the Venture 15 um, and Venture Asheville Honors, and they audit um, all of the documents. Correct?
Yeah, so to apply for the Venture 15, we rank companies based on CAGR, compound annual growth rate. And could you imagine like how we would be opened up to um, criticism or potentials for favoritism if everybody sent their and just confidentiality issues? If everyone competing sent, Jay Kaplan at ventureasheville.com their year-end tax documents, and I like went behind closed doors and came out with these like random numbers and said, there you go, folks, here's your top 15 companies, it would be open to so much criticism. So JPS is actually, it's not a financial transaction. It's an in-kind donation. So they donate time instead of money. So they'll give us two of their accountants, and even Ben Hamrick, the managing partner, I think maybe CEO, he audits these as well. So the two accountants go through, they review every financial document that comes in, and it goes through their secure portal. So it's not like you're shooting this over email to me. It's unsecure somehow. It's your secure portal through JPS. Two accountants check them. They run the CAGR calculation, and then Ben Hamrick does a once over as well. So you have three sets of professional CPAs going through these. And I mean, yeah, if we really had to, we could, I think it would be such a mistake for us to try to create these calculations ourselves. By having JPS do it, it's credibility, it's validity, it's reliability, all the things that add legitimacy and rigor and reverence and almost a level of sacredness to this event. You know how like in the Oscars, like Ernst and Young are the official sponsor to like tally the votes of the Academy, and they come out with this briefcase. So last time we did this, gosh, who was it? It was Chris Alexander came out with a handcuffed briefcase with the results of the Venture 15. And it was they have fun with it, and they're a great team to work with. Been so fortunate to have them as a partner going into our fourth year. We truly, I say we can't do this without them, and I stand by that. They add all the seriousness and professionalism to this event that makes it such a high standard. Again, to not just be fun for our community and be great, but to win the acknowledgement of IEDC as a gold ranking, top international best standard of innovation programs and economic development.
Yeah, it's just a great way, another great way that corporations can just keep supporting these awesome ventures. And I can't wait for the Venture 15 happening December 9th?
16th.
16th.
16th at the
December
Orange Peel.
16th. You heard that. You heard
At
that
the
here
Orange
at the
Peel.
Orange Peel. Yes, tickets available soon.
November 1st, we're going to put tickets out there.
All right, so watch
Note
out
to
for that in a
self,
few weeks.
update the webpage.
I guess to finish this up, Jeffrey, what role is Venture Asheville playing in connecting these local startups with these local corporations, and not necessarily local all the time, but established here in Asheville in some way, usually? What is Venture Asheville doing to support that?
So the cardstock example is so tangible and simple. Cardstock reached out to us and said, okay, we think our first market is going to be grocery stores. Do you have any connection to the grocery stores? And given that Venture Asheville is a part of, as you said earlier so eloquently, the Economic Development Coalition of Asheville-Buncombe County, yeah, we do, right? We have actually two large chains headquartered here in Buncombe County, Ingalls and Black Mountain, and Earth Fare here in Asheville. And Earth Fare picked up the phone right away, and they got them in right away. It was really quick and really easy. And not to like dunk on Ingalls, I'm currently drinking an Ingalls old-fashioned lemonade, naturally flavored, which is delicious. So that's one way. I think that follows the values of the Chamber and Economic Development Coalition to be a convener. And you hear that a lot about chambers. Chambers' roles are conveners. And we heard this with Kate Pett, right, from our Thrive episode 9. We have a role as a convener to bring parties together. That's number one. Number two is our role is to be kind of a flag waving, banner waving, brand ambassador of this movement, right? So I hope that some of our corporate partners will listen to this podcast and go, could we start a corporate venture capital fund? Could we take $5 million over 5 years and invest in 25, 30 companies at the very early stage? And could there be technologies or products that we end up having a piece of that helps us be more competitive in the market or creates a financial return for us in the future? And there's some of that. And then there's also our ability, based on being the public-private partnership we are, connected with the city and the county, we have a lot of, I think, authority and visibility, not just in Asheville, but statewide and regionally too. A lot of folks look to what we're doing. Like when you look at our newsletter stats, we have readers from all over the country because people are just curious about what's happening in Asheville. So raising that visibility of what's happening in our startups, to be on the radar of corporates, to let them know here's ways you can be involved. I think that's kind of our role: convener, champion, advertiser, raising the visibility. And yeah, again, setting that standard of here's what we want to see more of, here's why it's good, and why the rest of the business community should be taking note. So today it's corporate entrepreneurship and corporates' roles in the ecosystem. And in the future, you'll hear us talking about other ways like, here's a teaser, ESOPs, employee stock ownership plans, or employee shared ownership programs, sharing equity with your employees. That's a flag we'll be waving a lot more in the near future.
We'll have to watch out for that.
Podcast for another day.
Podcast of the future, maybe season 2. And is there anything else you want to add?
You know who does an interesting job of this is Ace Hardware. So Ace Hardware, the one by me at least on Merriman, they've got a section for the grommet. And the grommet is not like an Etsy per se. It's not really crafters, but it's like small businesses and startups, and it's their like storefront where you can see cool new. And it's not like Amazon. You have to like apply to get in. It's always new products from small businesses or startups, right? Small businesses don't become big businesses. And like the Ace Hardware here has a whole display of grommet products. Now, obviously, it's not local, but if you have a retail location, you can really be showcasing and championing the local business community. And I promise you, we see it so often in Asheville that if you're kind of leaning more into the local scene, you can charge more for it, and people will buy it more aggressively. They're happy to buy a local product for higher cost than a competitor. We see that in grocery, we see that in craft, we see it in technology. So maybe that's my call to action at the end of this episode: is use your local partners, especially if you're here in Asheville, because the market will react positively to it.
So if there's a corporation out there, they should get in touch with you if they want to start investing in some way in the startup ecosystem, correct?
Yeah, if let's pick on the Biltmore estate. I bet they've got some cash, and if they wanted to do some investing, we would love to help them.
All right. That's your call to action, Biltmore Estate. Contact Jeffrey Kaplan at jkaplan@ventureasheville.com, please.
Yeah, I think my calling is to help people spend money.
Mm-hmm.
Like a personal shopper, but not for fashion. We talked about that in a previous episode. Personal shopper for startups.
Sounds like a great job.
Maybe that should be my LinkedIn headline instead of CVC's new R&D, personal shopper for startups.
Yeah, they both rule.
I like that.
Yeah, you can make one your LinkedIn and one your Twitter. Who knows? All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today's episode of Talkin' Ship. Thank you for joining us for this Freaky Friday. Jeff, you got anything to say to let us out of here?
Halloween's coming up. Freaky Friday. I'm feeling the vibes.
Maybe that's it. I was thinking about going as something else, but maybe I won't.
Do you want to go as Jeff Kaplan?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to go as Juliana Walker?
No, I'm going as a farmer this year. We had a whole family outfit planned. I got animals, and I'll be the farmer. Yeah.
I wear overalls all the time, so I mean, I'm basically.
I could be you.
So. All right.
Thank you for talking ship with me today.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have to do this again sometime.
I look forward to it.
All right. Season finale next week. We'll see you then for some more ship talk.